All right, if you follow this, you know that there were no really big helmet-to-helmet hits in the NFL this weekend as players began to adjust to the new edicts designed to minimize concussions. Joining us is Chief of Orthopedic Surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Dr. Sonu Ahluwalia is here. That's a good sign, but I have a question for you. There are kids who are playing high school football.
Yes.
And they get hurt and they stagger off. And then they go back in and play. And there's something called, and correct me if I'm wrong, second impact syndrome. Is that what it's called?
Yes, absolutely.
That makes it so much worse. Can you talk about that?
Yes, Steve. It's a great point. Concussion is a mild traumatic brain injury. This is to be separated from other injuries which are devastating or catastrophic. But even though it's a mild injury, and most of the manifestations are things like confusion or disorientation or headaches or nausea, and seem relatively mild and pass, but if you put them back in the game before they're completely healed and they have a second impact, that could be disastrous. So people can have brain swelling, they can even die. And so that's why this is so important.
And the ethic of working is, I'm going back out there.
Yes.
You tough guys go back out there.
Right, right, exactly. And that's the problem. You know, athletes are trained to be tough, to go back in and take one for the team. But this is not an instant where they should do that. And that's why education is so important, to explain to the players, to explain to the parents that this is something that can have a disastrous consequence.
The other thing is, you know, it's a contact sport. Anytime you have contact sport, even if you don't, even if you're a skier, you can wipe out and you can, if you are involved in sports of any kind, the chance of injury go up, and it's just going to be a part of it.
And it's not just football. People think it's just football, but it's not. It can be basketball, it can be soccer, it can be many innocuous sports that we don't think about.
So you're saying seeing if a person is confused or not is not enough?
Well, Dorothy, what I'm saying is that when people get injured and they come off the field, whether they lose consciousness or not, they need to be evaluated in a certain way and need to be made to be aware that they need to tell us if they're feeling better or not. They can't just shrug it off.
Swimmer this weekend who died.
Let's hold off on the swimmer for a moment.
Say it's your kid and they butt heads. I mean, what you say is, are you okay? How many fingers am I holding?
Are there three questions to ask?
Yeah.
How do you know when you should go to the doctor?
So you ask things that require some cognition, some thinking. So you ask them to count back in sevens. You ask them the months of the year to be counted back.
So fingers is useless. Okay.
Yes, that doesn't matter. And it's not always visual. It's thinking and processing.
But does that really do the job?
It doesn't.
No.
It doesn't. It really doesn't. And that's why, you know, if somebody is disoriented for 15 minutes or more, if somebody loses consciousness, those are reasons to be out of the game. Just be out of the game. After that, a medical professional can evaluate you. There are many tests that we do now. So, you know, it's interesting. It's a funding issue, but many schools now have athletes do these tests before. So we have a baseline. Yes, exactly. And so when they get injured, they can come back and do the tests so we know when they're ready to go back and play.
All right, you brought with you a helmet. Now, does a helmet protects the brain, does it?
Well, Steve, you would think that this is what the helmet is made for. But you know, the helmet came into being, this type of helmet came into being in the 1960s, where people were having skull fractures. And the reason this helmet came into being was to prevent skull fractures. And it does a great job. There have been no skull fractures. But what it doesn't do is protect the brain. The brain is like, you know, I tell people, right, exactly. It's like a car, right? You have a car accident. The car may be okay, but you go back and forth, and that's what the brain does inside the skull. And that's how you get these injuries. And these are not disastrous major injuries. These are just some stretches and things like that, but that sets up a metabolic cascade that if you have a second injury could be terrible.
Well, we're also learning that subconcussive collisions can be very damaging. You can't even measure those. Right. You want to ask about the swimmer.
Yeah, who passed away.
Yes.
So we were talking about overexhaustion.
Yeah.
He's a young guy.
Right.
The water was, what, 86 degrees?
A champion swimmer.
Yeah.
Champion. What?
Well, Gillian, it's interesting. Most of the time when we talk about swimming, we talk about hypothermia.
Yes.
Which is different from hyperthermia, right?
Yeah.
So when people exercise, their body temperature goes up 10 to 20 times what normally they have. And you sweat, you evaporate. That's how you get rid of the heat. When you're in the water, there is no evaporation.
But everyone else survives, so I don't...
Well, one of the rules in this particular race was that you had to finish to qualify. So
He pushed
even though
himself.
he was, you know, at the 8-mile mark, he wasn't feeling well. You know, maybe he pushed himself just to finish, right? And this hyperthermia can really cause your heart to beat really fast, and you know.
And you think,
Wow,
well,
what a shame.
86 degrees, your body's at 90 plus,
Yeah.
it should be cooling, but it's not.
No, because the external temperature is high, and not
Right.
only that, but you aren't sweating, so you don't evaporate.
That's
so it's a
right.
problem.
Hey, it's not your thing, but can I ask about my eyes? What is wrong with
They're beautiful.
them? I see how red they are, but thank you.
Yeah. It's probably a red eye.
So that's an allergic reaction, or?
It can be infectious, it can be allergic, it can be a whole bunch of things.
Let's hope
but
it's not
more
pink eye,
likely,
because then you're getting it.
But don't pink eye. You usually get one eye, right? Or do you
Yeah,
get
I don't
two?
think it's pink
you
eye.
can get both.
Oh, you can.
But also you can't get it
Is
just
there
by
something
looking.
called drinker's eye? All right, next from the MTV show,
She's
The
giving you the
Buried
stink
Life.
eye.
It was red wine, but I don't think it makes your eyes red.
Bracken and Ben are here with 100 things to do before you die.